right, we are live. What's up, traders? Good morning. Welcome back and happy Money Monday. Tom, good morning, sir. Phenomenal. Happy to be back, man. It was amazing, man. It was a great time away with the family. Great disconnect. Ended up meeting one of our members here, Matthew Harper. So we met up with him. Wonderful weekend, man. Much needed. And that was a good time. Yeah, man. Hopefully you had a good weekend as well. Good weekend, man. Absolutely. But we are live right now, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to break everything down and get you guys prepared for today. And we got a busy week ahead. We got tons of data being released. We got the Fed's rate decision. You got GDP data this week. You got core PCE. So heck, should be a good week with some volatility. But before we dive into it, everybody on YouTube right now, hit me with a big old good morning. Want to make sure that you guys are all set, that the stream is coming in crystal clear. Audio's good before we start diving into it. And here in a couple minutes, we'll start jamming, ladies and gentlemen. And we will pick everything apart, get you guys prepared, talk about the game plans for today. And we'll be all set for market open at 9:30. PC over on the tube. Good morning, sir. Again, Tom, David, good morning. We got like a couple viewers over on YouTube right now. Just kicking things back off for the pre-market rundown. I know back in the day you guys loved it. So we're going to start building some more momentum behind this. Have some fun with it, but dive into it. All right, so it is 8:47. What do we got? We got about 42 minutes till market open, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, let's go right to the charts. Let's dive into the technicals and let's talk about what we have going on for today with the SPY, the Qs, IWM. We'll also be taking a look at MSTR and then SMCI today as well. So if you have any other stock that's on your watch list that is not one of those 5 that I just listed on off, go ahead and type those on up on the YouTube chat. Go ahead and type them up inside of Zoom, and I will definitely take a look at those. We'll pick those apart and see if there's anything there for today. But before we dive into the technicals, I'm going a little too fast here. Slow down, Josh. You got to go look at the economic calendar first, right? As always, we want to make sure that we're mindful of what's going on today. Any kind of key data set to be released today. We do. 9:45. We do have S&P Global Composite PMI. And we do have S&P Global Manufacturing and Services PMI data all set to be released at 9:45. So that is definitely the type of data that can impact the market. We can see the market react to that. So be mindful if you are in a trade, if you're thinking about getting into a trade, just be mindful that we do have some key data being released here at 9:45, and you could see the market react to that. So if you're in a trade, have your finger on the trigger, stop in the system. If you're thinking about getting into a trade, maybe just hold off a couple of minutes, let data get released, see how the market reacts, and then reassess and go from there. All right, so for today, 9:45, we got some data. After that, we are pretty much in the clear for the rest of the day. Now we can dive into the technicals, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to start with the SPY. Not really a fan of the SPY. Honestly, not really even a fan of the Qs. Sitting at new all-time highs right now. And I don't know about you guys, but I do not like trading stocks when they're sitting at all-time highs. Just not a lot of levels to trade off of. So it's a lot of patience, a lot of sitting back. Not a lot of opportunity normally presents itself, but we'll see what we have for today. And any opportunity that presents itself, we'll definitely take advantage of it. All right, so the SPY. Let's go ahead and give you guys a couple of the main zones and main levels that you guys should be paying attention to today. All right, so first key level of resistance, and this is going to be your LITS, your LITS. That stands for the line in the sand. It is your make or break level. Such a key level that we can see a nice big move off of it. That zone is up here between 607.02 to 607.16. Above that level of resistance, your next zone is up here between 607.82 to 607.92. And then we're all the way back up here between 608.43 to 608.48. And then your lower level of daily support is way down here in like the 604s. It's between 604.15 to 604.32. And there's not a lot of key zones between that 604 and 607. So if we're just kind of sitting here in the middle, we're going to be hands off, right? But we are starting to push up to the top zone of key resistance. So I'm going to go ahead and just build my 2 simple what if plans off that zone. Let the market open, see if the SPY gets there, sit back, wait and see what happens, and then just literally trade accordingly. So what's the first thing that we could see happen off that zone? It doesn't break it. It tops out. We see a short setup taking place off that zone, and we look to get short, right? So if we come up into that zone of daily resistance, and again, that's our most significant zone for today. That's our line in the sand. We come up into it and we just can't break above it. That's where I want to be looking to enter put contracts, right? And looking for the move back down. Do I think it's going to go from 607 to 604 without bouncing, right? Should I just take it all the way down without taking profit along that way down? Absolutely not, right? Just got to look left and assess areas to take profit. Is that a final target to the downside? Could we get down to that 604 zone? Absolutely. But look left. If we come up, top out, we get short, we're just going to look left and see where should we take profit along the way down. First area, right around like 606 would be a good area to scale out. Then looking left into Thursday session, probably right around this region here would be another good area to take some profit. That's right around like 605.30. Then all the way down to that lower zone of support. So this would be like a profit target 1 level. This would be like a profit target 2 level. And again, we're just looking left at some of these prior lows where we've had a lot of great support, resistance intraday over the last couple of sessions. And then all the way down into that lower zone of support would be your main and final target for today if we do see the SPY setting up the short side. But who's to say the SPY comes up, tops out, starts to roll on over, and we get short? What if we come up into that zone and we break it with some force, right? Well, sit back, relax, and wait for the stock to pull back and retest that zone as intraday support. So if we see that big, forceful, strong break, and we see a nice, healthy retracement and pull back into that zone, and then we actually see, hey, we're holding is really solid support. I see there's more buyers than sellers off that key zone of now support. That's where we would look to get long and play calls. Where to? Our next daily zone of resistance. That's between that 607.82 to 607.92. That's your first target. If we break that zone, we know where we're going next. Our next daily zone of resistance. 608.43 to 608.48. So, to recap, really comes down to what is the SPY going to do off that 607.02 to 607.16 zone. If we get there, one of 3 things are going to happen. We're going to top out, have an opportunity to get short. We're going to break it, retest it. We have the opportunity to get long, or we come up to that zone and just chop around it, don't respect it, right? So, we'll see what we have today on the SPY, guys. If we get there, awesome. We'll see if we have a short, and we'll go from there. All right, Q. We are just barely pushing above all-time highs right now. So we had a new all-time high formed there on Friday, right around that 533.17. So you can see here in pre-market session, we are pushing above that level just a little bit, but we're starting to work our way back down below that previous all-time high. And that's going to be a pretty key level of resistance. So if we do see the SPY, or I'm sorry, the Qs, dropping on off back below those prior all-time highs ahead of market open, I'm curious to see if we come back up and retest that level as intraday resistance. And that would give us a potential little lower high off all-time high resistance where, hey, maybe we could look for a short for a nice little pullback today here on QQQ. So that's kind of where my head is. If we see something like that set on up, I would consider a short, but tread lightly to the short side up against all-time highs. Some would say it's risky biscuits, but if you know how to build proper plans, assess risk reward, again, you could still have really, really good trading opportunity to the short side of all-time highs. We see it time and time and time again, but just again, make sure you're building those plans, assessing risk correctly. And if you get stopped out, please make sure you get stopped out. Last thing you want to do is just see this thing grind and grind and grind to the upside. You're short and you lose way too much money. So we're going to go ahead and just mark up Friday's high a day. That's your all-time high, 533.17. And then your next daily zone of lower support, and this is a very key level. This is going to be our line in the sand here on the Qs. Give me this lower zone down here between 530.44 to 530.64 here on the Qs. All right, and then below that zone, your next lower zone of daily support down here between 527.34 to 527.67. And then lastly, go ahead and just throw a uptrend here on QQQ off those higher lows from Friday's session. And you can see that your line in the sand is right up against where that trend line is as well. So if we do see the Qs pull back into that LITS, that key level of daily support, and we also respect and bounce off that trend line as well, that's an area where I want to get long on the Qs today. Okay, so that's going to be game plan number one, right? If we drop on back off into that key level of daily support, we also hold above that trend line as intraday support, and we have good price action. That's where I want to get long and play calls. Where to? Back up to Friday's high a day, those all-time highs. All right, so that's game plan number one. Game plan number two, if we come down into that line in the sand and that trend line and we crack below it, I want to see if we're going to retest that line in the sand as intraday resistance. If that's what we see take place with good price action, we'll look to play puts for the potential next leg down into our next daily zone of support. That's 527.34 to 527.67. That's going to be game plan number two. And then lastly, game plan number three is if we see that possible lower high setup off those prior all-time highs here on QQQ. So let's say, for example, we start to drop back down below 533.17. I would like to see the Qs push back up to that 533.17 level and see if we stay below it and just pair that with good price action. We have good price action, and if we see there are more sellers than buyers, I would consider a light short position off that 533.17. Because the way I see it is that would give us a nice lower high off of a nice level of resistance. So if we get back below that level, I just want to see it come back up, retest it intraday. That would give us a slightly lower high from pre-market to that potential lower high intraday. Just pair that with good price action. If we see what we want to see, that would be an area where I would consider getting short and playing some puts back down into that trend line and into that daily zone of support. All right, guys. So that's going to be your three game plans for today with the Qs. And if the Qs just keep pushing, I'm just going to be hands off and I'll shift my focus to the SPY and see if the SPY sets up off one of these key zones for today. So you guys got the SPY. You guys have the Qs. Let's go ahead and dive into IWM. I'm not crazy about IWM, but there's a couple key levels to focus on today here on IWM. First, pretty nice level of support is going to be down here between 230.59 to 230.94. That's a pretty nice level of support. And then we have a lighter level of resistance. I'm not all that crazy about this zone of resistance, so I'm not just going to get short off that level of resistance just because we get there. I would need absolutely a couple more confluences just to make sure that's a high probability trade to get short off that zone. But it's a level I want to keep on watch and see Do we respect it? And is there a trade opportunity off of it? And so that zone is going to be up here between 234.39 to 234.87. And you're kind of just sitting right below that zone of resistance. So if IWM gets up into that zone of resistance and we have good price action, and ideally we have one or two other confluences present on the trade that supports the short, I would look for a short back down into that lower zone of support here on IWM. That's between 230.59 to 230.94. But I really like that daily zone of support. So I'd be curious to see, can IWM dump on off, come on down into that lower zone of support? If so, and if we have good price action off that level, I would really like to get long here on IWM, because I do believe that's a key significant level of support, and we can see a nice push and a nice bounce off that zone back to the upside. All right, so that's going to be your two significant key levels on IWM. Very solid, significant level of support, 230.59 to 230.94, and a decent level of resistance between 234.39 to 234.87. So if you're looking at IWM, let it open, let it come to one of those zones, then simply go from there and see if you have a trade presenting itself. All right, guys. Other than that, we got MSTR moving to the upside this morning. Good press release this morning on MSTR. I believe it was Bitcoin Proxy will join NASDAQ 100 Index and QQQ ETF. Why does that matter to MSTR? Well, MSTR holds a boatload of Bitcoin. So that's a very positive thing here for MSTR. So you see this thing up around, say like what? 14, 16 points this morning, if I can do math correctly. Probably not. It's 16 points. Good job, Josh. So nice little push to the upside. And we're starting to kind of just slowly fade and fall back down into this daily zone of support and this potential little uptrend from Friday session that could be respected here today as well. And you see that it is slightly respecting it here this morning in pre-market. So again, I'm kind of 50-50 with it. I just want to keep it on watch and see if it moves well today, see if we have good movement, good price action. If so, maybe there's a good trade. So the first thing that I see is we've come down into that trend line here in pre-market for a 0.3. We had a nice little bounce off of it. So this is 0.1 from Friday session. That's your 0.2. And then right here in pre-market was 0.3. Come down to the trend line. You have a nice bounce. So one of two things can happen. All right, number one, if we come down into that trend line again and hold it, and we have a nice bounce, I would consider playing it long off that trend line. Good press release today as well. We can continue to see more upside. Where to? Our next daily zone of resistance, and it's a pretty big zone. It's between 440.73 to like 445.03. So we would look to take profits in the low 440s on MSTR if we do get long off that trend line. All right, so that's game plan number one. If we hold the trend line, I would get long for the next leg up into the low 440s. But if we crack this trend line, I just want to keep it on watch down around some of these lower daily zones of support and see if we hold on up. And if so, we could still see some potential upside today. So your first daily zone of support down here between 415.77 to 417.61. And then below that, you got a zone down here between 408.91 to 409.91. And so these are going to be two daily zones I'm watching today. Pair these zones with good price action, we could see some nice opportunity to get long and still see some nice upside today here on MSTR. But my first plan is to see if we respect this trend line that was created from Friday session and then validated here in pre-market. If we open on up, come down and see a nice reaction off that trend line, I'm going to look to get long for that potential move on up into the low 440s. If we crack that trend line, I'll be out of that trade. I'll let it come down into one of these lower zones. And if we hold on up and see a proper setup, I could always look to get right back into that trade if I see there's upside potential here on MSTR. All right, so want to keep that on watch. Nice move here this morning in pre-market. Good little press release. Stock's moving up about, 14, 16 points right now. And I think there could be a little bit more upside here today. And then lastly, oh yeah, we got SMCI, right? We came down below this daily gap, but we're coming down into a pretty key significant level here on SMCI. And that's between $30.80 to $31.16. It's a really key level that if we can hold on up today and have good price action off that zone, I think we can have a push back up to Friday's low of day here on SMCI. And so again, that zone is between $30.80 to $31.16. So if we see SMCI open, pull back into that zone, and we have good price action off that zone, I definitely want to get long and look to play some calls back up into these lows from Friday. That's going to put you up between 35.32 to 35.60. And I would simply just put stops below that key daily zone of support. So entries right around 31, stops right below that zone with a very realistic target back up in the 35s. So you can already see this would be a very, very low risk, high reward trade here on SMCI. Okay, so let's keep this one on watch for today as well. You got SMCI all set, MSTR, there's potential. You got IWM, looks decent. QQQ, I think this is the best looking stock for today. So I want to put most of my focus here on the Qs right at market open. Think we could see a nice little low risk, high reward short. So if you're just now tuning in, what I'm looking for is a drop back below 533.17, which looks like we're starting to see the move back below. We push back up at market open and retest 533.17 as intraday resistance. That would give us a slightly lower high off key resistance, and I would look to get short off that 533.17, put stops right above those pre-market highs, and look to ride that bad boy down into our next daily zone of support. That's right around 530.50 here on QQQ. So another low risk, high reward trade that has a lot of great potential. This one is on the top of the watch list right now. And then you got the good old SPY, but you're just sitting pretty much right in the middle of two pretty key zones. So you're going to be hands off at market open on the SPY. It's going to take some time. See the SPY work its way up or down into one of these key levels. But if you look at the Qs, we could see QQQ setting up right at 9:30. Want to keep this one on high watch, guys. All right, so SPY, Qs, IWM, MSTR, and SMCI are the top 5 stocks for today. Now, if you guys have any stocks on your watch list, go ahead and let me know. Type those up over on YouTube. If you're in the Zoom, go ahead and open the mic. Get me involved. Let's take a look at what you guys are looking at for today and take this time to get you guys prepared.
EQT.
EQT. You're a QT too.
Oh, thank you.
All right. EQT Corporation.
Little play on natural gas.
Okay. Let's do some TA on this bad boy. See what we have. Pretty flat in pre-market. Not a lot of movement. So we're going to be opening near where we closed on out there on Friday. Looking for a day trade or a little bit of a swing trade? Big picture or kind of like short term?
Big picture swing trade.
Okay. Let's zoom out and do some longer term analysis then. Got a really solid zone here on EQT between 44.57 to like 45.27. We hit this level several times back in 2022 as a resistance, dumped on off, came back up August 2023, hit it again, nice drop on off. Several more times here October and November of last year, dropped on off. So you got a very, very solid zone of resistance there. You come up to it, you see there was a little bit more resistance off that zone. You break above it, come down into it, try and hold it as support, but you failed. Just to see it snap back above that level last week, and now we're starting to pull back into it just a little bit. And so what I'm starting to see, just kind of based on price movement around that zone, is we had that break above. We tried to hold it as support, back below it, back above it. If we stay above that zone of support and see a nice little daily higher low form off that zone, I would believe we could see a nice push off of it. And that would give you a really ugly little head and shoulders formation. An inverse head and shoulders off of a pretty significant daily zone. This looks like that was the attempted left shoulder. Here is your head. There could be that right shoulder formation right off that daily zone of support. And that would give you a nice little daily higher low off that zone where we could see a nice little push. So, I mean, I do like that zone. Definitely stands out. Very significant. And I like the movement around that zone here recently. And we're starting to see some potential. Maybe for a nice push higher. Then what I want to do is just keep doing some analysis. Let's go look at that swing low from last Tuesday with a fib retracement. Run it on up into the high day from Thursday. Check that out. The bottom end of that zone is right where that 50% is. Right where we tried to form all that support here just a couple weeks ago as well. So that already gives you another confluence. Maybe it takes a couple of days to work its way on down and set up. That 20 EMA could curl on up and be another confluence as support there as well at that point in time. So that stands out. What else we got here? If there's anything else? And what I want to do is go and see if we can tighten that big old daily zone up a little bit. Right now it's between 44.57, 45.27. It's not bad, but let's see if we can go strategically tighten this bad boy up. I think we can. I think we can make little teeny weeny adjustments to it. Tighten it up a little bit. Bring that top end down. Bring that bottom end down and connect more of those bodies and some of those wicks. So I would say after kind of just adjusting it a little bit, because we even have some support for him back here, all that resistance. 44.45 to 44.90. That's really just taking that zone and dialing that zone in just a little bit more from these recent data points way back here. And then it even looks better here a couple weeks ago when we came back down, tried to hold it as support. We bounced, got below it, back above it. That's the zone where I would want to see that higher low form between 44.45 to 44.90. And then if we put that fib retracement back on, we can see it's still right up against that 50% level. So that's what I see on EQT. I would want to see a higher low form, good price action off that daily zone. I would look for a long position, first target, these prior highs right here between 46.13 to 46.33. Second target, these highs between 47.92 to 48.03. And then you're looking to get back up towards around 50 bucks. So that's what I see, Mr. Tom, here on EQT.
Yeah, I was seeing the same thing. I was looking at it. I've been in and out of this trade in the past, and I like going back and seeing the way things were setting up as it is currently. And the other thing I like, that green candle there 3 days ago, the force that it came back
A lot of
through
force through it.
resistance. and then it held above it the next day and closed above that same level.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I like that snapback above it. Forceful snapback, nice push. It didn't give it back the very next day. Kind of consolidated here for 2 days. And yeah, we can see it come back down to that zone with good price action. I mean, I would consider getting in myself. I am starting to see that little left shoulder, head, potential right shoulder, and that is an inverse head and shoulders formation. And that's a nice little reversal setup off a key zone with some realistic overhead targets. Big picture, this thing is uptrending as well. I mean, overall, it does look good to the long side.
and the additional confluences that you have the 50 fib right in there. So it looks like it sets up. It looks like it could be a really good trade.
Oh, absolutely. You got the fib sitting right there. If this takes maybe a few days to pull back, that 20 EMA could be curling on up there as well. That could be another area of support that it respects. But that daily zone is a very significant zone, even without the fib, without that, EMA. Just with good price action, like we saw here at that zone again, would be enough for me to feel confident. Take that trade. Putting stops right below that zone, and then a couple very nice realistic targets to the upside. That's going on the swing trade watch list. I like that.
I feel honored.
Looks good. You always bring the best of the best swing trades to the table, man. I tell you what.
I mean, I try not to waste time, mine, yours, or anybody else's. That's something that can be realistic. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it before, but where it makes some sense to put some research into it for a swing trade, just it makes sense. And again, the time of the year, you got natural gas with, cooler temperatures, not to mention new president who's very, centered on energy. And we're one of the biggest gas producers in the world,
Right.
natural gas producers.
Absolutely. I like it. And then I was going to talk about Disney, but I don't want to. It took forever to play on out, but it ended up hitting that zone and then starting to roll on over. I don't know if you ever took that trade on Disney, if you still had that swing trade, but I ended up closing it out. I think the very next day.
I closed it out the next day. I just didn't like where it was heading towards, and just it wasn't going in the right direction.
Actually, it was same day, wasn't it? Yeah, because we saw that end of day strong push back up, and I'm pretty sure it was like, yeah, same day towards the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, if it broke that, whatever I forget what the level was. I don't have.
Gotcha. I didn't know if you
no
re-entered
front
it.
of me.
Yeah, because it ended up coming back
No.
down. Good price action off that zone, and then working its way on down.
No, I didn't touch it again. I just didn't like the reaction initially, and I took it off my radar.
Gotcha. I'm still gonna watch it, see if we ever come down into the top end of that gap, 108.50, and then see if there's anything there worth trading off that daily gap level. But that'll take some time to get there. All right, what's next, ladies and gentlemen? What else are we looking at? PC over on YouTube is asking, would that be a gap fill on which stock? On the Qs, that would be coming back down into Friday's close and open. So we are going to be gapping up today. So yeah, we'd be pulling back into Friday's close and Friday's open, where we have a nice little zone around some daily points. But I wouldn't trade that the same way that I would trade like a normal daily gap. Not the same way of trading it. Like this here is a daily gap where price hasn't been yet. So this would be a gap that I would look to trade inside of. And there's like 4 variations and 4 ways to trade a gap. But could we see the Qs hit resistance, pull back into Friday's close and open, and fill the gap from the gap up today and see it hold as support? Of course. 100%. Yeah, I do like the Qs a lot more than really anything else. The SPY, I think it's going to take some time to work its way to some of those levels. IWM is right in between those 2 zones. MSTR looks like it's hitting that trend line right now. So we'll see if there's still an opportunity to take this long at market open. There's some potential, but let's see. Then I do like SMCI off that lower daily zone between 30.80 31.16. It's a pretty significant level here on SMCI. So if we can open, drop on off into that zone, good price action. I don't want to get long on SMCI. So SMCI will be number 2. Because what I like to do is find like my top 3 to 5 stocks that have the best potential, and then really decide which 1 or 2 stocks should I put all of my focus on right at market open. What stocks are sitting next to those key zones? Which stocks could set up in the first few minutes, potentially, at market open? The SPY, probably going to take some time. IWM, going to take some time. Why would I want to put all of my focus on those 2 stocks when the Qs could be setting up right at 9:30? And shoot, you see the same thing here on SMCI. So just kind of reordering that watch list from number 1 all the way down to number 5. So number 1, QQQ at market open. Number 2, going to be SMCI. And those are going to be the 2 stocks that get all of my focus here at 9:30, guys.
Just a reminder, we're also on Fed Watch this week with the interest rate move.
Yes, we are. So Wednesday, we have the Fed rate decision, followed by the FOMC press conference. There's a lot of data this week. And then I think Thursday, we have GDP data set to be released with jobless claims in the morning. And then coming into Friday, we got core PCE data, Michigan consumer sentiment, personal income, some very, very high impact data this week. Got high impact data Friday. You got some here on Thursday, Wednesday. We're going to see a lot of volatility, in my opinion, this week. Got retail sales tomorrow at 8:30. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun week, guys. We should see some good movement, see some good opportunity, and we'll crush it. All right. Does anybody have anything else you wanna take a look at for today? If not, we can just start doing some nice Q&A. You guys have any questions? Let me know. It could be about, the stocks we're looking at, some of the zones we listed off. If we just have any general questions, feel free to ask. But we have about 7 minutes till market open, and we're just going to sit back, relax, and wait until then. Good morning, everybody else. We got Catherine here, Chris, David, Don, Julie, Kevin, Marcus. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Doing wonderful. How are you doing?
I am amazing.
I love it.
I have a quick question, Josh, if anybody doesn't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. What's going on?
So when we are looking at the market for futures, post-market and pre-market, when I'm looking at the market, sometimes it comes like one of the candles, it's like really, really short.
Like a very like a non-existent candle, you mean? Like something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
So here's the thing with pre-market, post-market trading. If you're going to do any kind of trading, I would go to ES&Q and actually look at the chart during those times. If you're looking at like pre-market, post-market, like early in the morning or late at night where there's like literally like non-existent candles.
Okay. So just go, even though that I'm trading in MNQ and MES?
That's correct. Yeah, so like intraday, like 9:30, 4 o'clock, when I would trade options on the SPY and the Qs, and I'm doing all of my analysis on the SPY and the Qs for like intraday trading, I would rather just continue to analyze the SPY, the Qs, and if I want to trade futures, I will. But if you're like at 9 o'clock at night or 4 a.m. and you look at the SPY, there's no movement. You're not going to be able to read it clearly. You're going to have to go look at MES, MNQ if you're going to be trading during those hours. But during the day, you're definitely safe to continue to do that analysis on the SPY and the Qs like you normally would when you're trading options. But instead of trading options, being able to put on a futures trade.
Okay. So if it's at night, it's better to look on ES.
Exactly. Yeah. Because if we go look at ES here in a moment, I mean, so look at the SPY from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. I mean, you have no data. There's like nothing here within those 5-minute candles. But let's go look at the same time with ES here between 4 and 5. Look at all that movement here on
Oh,
ES.
yeah, that's way better.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say 9:30 to 4 o'clock. If you want to keep it simple, continue to come in, analyze the SPY and the Qs as you would to get ready for the day to trade options. You could just transfer on over, flip over, and just trade futures based on the conversations we've had with being able to just do your risk reward analysis. But yeah, if it's like
Okay.
11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, you're not going to see anything on the SPY. You'll have to go to like ESNQ, do all
Okay.
of your analysis at that time, and then
Okay.
go from there.
Okay. Thank you.
It wasn't today the day we were going to start, because I forgot. I know that we were going to start at the beginning of December. I know everybody said they wanted maybe another 1 or 2 weeks before we started the prop firm accounts for the little futures challenge. You guys want to go ahead and start that today, or do you guys need a little bit more time before we start diving into those combines? Where are you guys at right now with futures?
I need to wait till after the new year, but if you guys want to start, go ahead.
No one's being left behind, Julie. Not gonna happen. We will wait. We're gonna do this together.
We can start like at this point. I'll start at the right at the beginning, that first week of January,
Okay.
and that way give us some time to dial this really in.
Absolutely. 100%. And let's keep working on it over the next couple of weeks then. If there's any questions you guys have, anything that just seems, confusing, it's not clicking, get me involved, guys. Absolutely. We can bridge that gap, really make this simple to where we can really get you guys ramped up with futures come first of the year. It's going to take maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks tops to pass those challenge accounts, and then we're in those funded accounts, and we start getting those nice little payouts, guys. All right, we got about 2 minutes till market open, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make sure we have a really good day. Trade smart, trade safe, and just follow the steps, guys. Let the market open, let the market come to you, analyze it correctly, build those plans, and take some great trades today. Be disciplined, remain patient, and let's make sure that we crush it. So, if you guys are on YouTube, really do appreciate you guys tuning on in. We do these live streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday between 8:45 to 9:30. And we have fun with it, guys. I really do enjoy it. So keep tuning on in. If you haven't yet, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel. And so you guys get notified when we go live, hit the little notification bell as well. I upload tons of videos. These live streams are re-uploaded, so you guys can go back and watch the recaps. I'm putting up trainings periodically, and who knows, maybe I just start doing random streams at random times, and you guys want to be notified for that. So hit that little notification bell, and we will see you back here Wednesday morning at 8:45. Trade smart, trade safe. Have a blessed day, everybody. I'll see you back here Wednesday morning on YouTube.